Like to have everybody's attention for a moment.
There's a stat. I don't like bringing up stats, but there's one stat about the Panthers.
In the world is James Harden better scorer than Michael Jordan?
No, he's more creative in that.
Traveling is not creative, Brandon.
He doesn't.
You know, no matter what the score is, and they've said it themselves, whether they're up 10, down 20, whatever, they know they can turn it on whenever.
Why did you have to bring up the Cowboys in this conversation?
Lived in Texas for 2 years and just could not stand to watch Cowboys football.
All right, listen up.
Welcome to The Rundown. Here's Desmond Johnson.
And welcome to The Rundown on a beautiful Saturday here in North Carolina. I am your host, Desmond Johnson. You can follow us on Twitter at SportsCarolina1. Also, go pound that like button for us at Sports Carolina Monthly on Facebook and Tobacco Road Sports Radio on Facebook and Twitter as well. Loaded show today. We've got the voice of the Deacon, Stan Cotton, stopping by. Keyshawn Bishop, head of the Blue Chip Basketball Academy. The high school fall basketball league is going to be starting today, actually. They've already tipped off in Winston-Salem. A lot of Division I talent there we'll be talking to. Brandon Blakeney will be stopping by, member of the Rundown crew. Rod Funderburk will be back. He's on assignment. He'll be back next week. Our regular crew, our regular traditional lineup will be back next week as well. Hope you're enjoying all the goodies on Tobacco Road Sports Radio. You just finished listening to the pregame with Brian Snow, and we will have a Stone's Throw with Ryan Stone following the rundown. So this week marked the beginning of the 2020 NFL season. We've already seen on Thursday the Chiefs dismantle the Houston Texans. The Chiefs look like they just got off the bus from the Super Bowl and just went back to work. I have actually picked my division winners for all the divisions, all of the playoff teams, and who I think will be in the Super Bowl. So without any further ado, Maestro, cue my music. Let's go ahead and get into this. Starting off, the AFC West, of course, it's the Kansas City Chiefs. The only team that's going to stop Kansas City this year is Kansas City. Pat Mahomes is a $500 million man right now. They probably got the steal of the first round with running back Clyde Edwards-Helaire out of LSU, who just ran for a $130 and 2 touchdowns in the season opener a couple of nights ago in Arrowhead. It gives the Chiefs an elite rush game now all of a sudden to go along with that fast wide receiving core. Mahomes to Tyreek Hill might be the most exciting combination in football right now. I don't see anybody dethroning the Chiefs. The Chiefs are going to win the AFC West. In the AFC East, I know a lot of people have thought this might be the year the Bills dethrone the New England Patriots, but not so fast. The Bills aren't quite there yet. I've got the Patriots winning this division. When a team has won a division 19 of 20 years, I need to see them be dethroned before I declare them ineligible to be able to do this one more time. Bill Belichick plus Cam Newton on a revenge scorched earth tour. It's going to be must-see TV. If the Cam can stay upright and stay healthy, I have no doubt that the Patriots will craft an offense to suit his talents, and I expect the Patriots to do what they've done for the past 2 decades. If a guy goes down with injury, a guy doesn't play, a guy's suspended, a guy's out, some other random guy steps up and takes his spot. You know, Bill Belichick, do your job. That's their motto. I expect the Patriots to do the same thing. I expect the Patriots to win the AFC East. In the AFC North, this was probably the toughest division for me to select. I'm going to roll with the Pittsburgh Steelers. Big Ben Roethlisberger is back, and more importantly, their first 3 games starting off 2020 are the Giants, the Broncos, and the Texans. The Steelers could easily be 3-0 by the end of week 3, and I think for 2020, the main focus for a lot of these teams will be getting off to fast starts. If the Steelers get off to a fast start, the sky's the limit for them, and I think that the Steelers can reclaim the AFC North by becoming AFC North champions in 2020. AFC South, I'm going with the Indianapolis Colts. Great offensive line. Phillip Rivers has one more year left in him. I do think this is probably one of the better offensive lines Rivers has ever played behind. They're in a weak division. I was not impressed with the Texans on Thursday night, although they were playing the defending Super Bowl champs. But it feels like the Colts have enough to get out of this division. The AFC South may be the weakest division in all of football, not counting the AFC East. But even the AFC East has the Patriots and an up-and-coming Bills squad in it. the AFC South, I don't really trust any of the teams in this in this division, and 9 wins might be enough to win the AFC South. So I'm going to go with the Colts in the AFC South to be the winner. Wild cards in the AFC. Got an extra wild card team this year as the league has expanded the playoffs to 7 teams per side. So only one team will get the bye. That bye I have being the Kansas City Chiefs going into this. The wild cards, I have the Baltimore Ravens. The league has tape on Lamar Jackson now, so it's really going to come down to how accurate is Lamar Jackson as a passer in the NFL, because he is not built like Cam Newton. He's built more like Robert Griffin III. So he can't continue to run as often as they ran him last year, even though he's very good about avoiding big hits. It only takes one hit to cripple your franchise. I don't expect them to run Lamar Jackson as often as he did last year, but I do realize that once you get him running, it's almost addictive to continue to have him running. So I don't think the Ravens are going to be able to duplicate what they did last season. It's very hard to continue to do that year in and year out. Plus, their first 3 weeks of the season, they have the Cleveland Browns, the Houston Texans, and the Kansas City Chiefs. So there's an opportunity there for the Ravens to start off in a hole. But I'm going to bet on the Ravens and reigning MVP Lamar Jackson to pick up one of those wild card slots. Jackson does need to attempt more passes per game. He only attempted 26.7 pass attempts per game in 2019. That was 26th overall in the league. My second wildcard team in the AFC is the Houston Texans. Weak conference. I love Deshaun Watson. They need either Brandon Cooks or Kenny Stills, one of those wide receivers, to step up to replace DeAndre Hopkins, who is now in Arizona. But again, the Texans are in a weak conference. They're going to pick up some wins there. They're going to surprise some folks, probably slip into the wild card at a 9-7 record themselves. But I've got the Houston Texans as my second wild card. And then finally, my final wild card in the AFC is the Cleveland Browns. This is a show and prove year for Baker Mayfield. These guys, this team has talent everywhere, from Odell Beckham Jr., Nick Chubb, Kareem Hunt is here, Jarvis Landry, Donovan Peoples-Jones from Michigan is on this squad. You got Myles Garrett on this squad. Plus, their first 3 weeks of the season, they are taking on the Ravens, Bengals, and the Washington football team. So the Browns can actually get out of the first 3 weeks of the season 3-0, 2-1, and set themselves up pretty nicely for a playoff run. Look for the Browns to finally get back to the playoffs. Over in the NFC West, I'm picking Seattle, the Seahawks. They may dig a hole for themselves early based off of their schedule. They've got Pats, Falcons, and Cowboys in their first 3 weeks of their schedule, but I do expect Seattle to emerge from the West. They're just loaded. Russell Wilson's going to be in the MVP conversation. DK Metcalf will continue to ascend as Wilson's #1 receiver. And I like what Pete Carroll is doing in Seattle, keeping this train going. They win when Russell Wilson is behind the center, and there's no reason to expect them not to continue those ways in 2020. In the NFC East, I'm taking the Dallas Cowboys. Loaded offense. Dak Prescott still didn't get his money, but got tagged. You've got talent up and down the offense. Plus, they drafted CeeDee Lamb, a wide receiver out of Oklahoma, to add on to Amari Cooper and those boys in the wide receiving core. You still have a top 3 running back. You still have a very good offensive line. And you still have a very good defense. Dallas's problem is underachieving. They have to jump out early. They've got the Rams, the Falcons, and the Seahawks in the first 3 weeks of the season. If the Dallas Cowboys can get out to a 2-1 or 3-0 start, look for the Cowboys to win the East. NFC South, I'm going to take a complete left turn from everyone in the media. I haven't heard a single soul pick this team to win this division. And no, it's not the Carolina Panthers. It's the Atlanta Falcons. Here's a fun fact for all you guys out there that are heavy on Tampa Bay and on New Orleans this year. The Atlanta Falcons are going to start 9 of their 10 offensive starters. 9 out of the 11 offensive starters that the Atlanta Falcons are going to trot out there this year were first-round draft picks. That has never happened in the history in the NFL. Think about that. 9 of the 11 starters on offense for the Falcons are former first-round picks. They picked up Todd Gurley from the Rams. If Gurley can give this team 1,000 yards this season, I know he's got some injury issues, some knee problems and whatnot. Hasn't been the same back as he was, say, maybe 2 years ago or 3 years ago. But if he can grind out 1,000 yards for this Falcon team that has Matt Ryan at quarterback, that has Julio Jones outside, they've got talent everywhere. If they can just get that from Gurley, I like Atlanta to win the South. Tampa Bay, their quarterback is 43 years old. In New Orleans, their quarterback is 41 years old. Father Time is undefeated, and usually when it happens very, very suddenly, and I would not be surprised if that happens to Tampa and New Orleans this year, where both their quarterbacks, Drew Brees and Tom Brady, begin to fall off that cliff. In the NFC North, I'm taking the Green Bay Packers. Rodgers will be in the MVP race. Let's just, they didn't really do him any favors in the draft, that's for sure. But basically, it's the same type of squad he had last year. Aaron Jones at running back, great 1,000-yard rusher. Green Bay has control of this division. Minnesota might threaten, but I really feel like Aaron Rodgers is going to play at MVP level this year. Now that he's got some competition and they drafted in the first round behind him at quarterback, he'll be out looking for something to prove. Look for the Packers to win the NFC North. Wild cards. I know I just bagged on them both, but I do expect the Saints and the Buccaneers to make it to the playoffs, but as wild cards, not as the division winners. New Orleans, they're talented enough to get to the playoffs, but if Breeze gets hurt, they are severely in trouble because they do not have Teddy Bridgewater as the backup quarterback any longer, and I do not trust Taysom Hill as the sole second-string backup there. Jameis Winston is in New Orleans, but he just got there, and the last time we saw Jameis Winston, he was throwing for 30 touchdowns and 30 interceptions in a season. So not really high on Jameis right now, although he could get rehabbed by Sean Payton, who knows, but it really all stems on Drew Brees and his arm. Same for Tampa Bay. Tom Brady's 43, smiling a whole lot more. He's been reunited with Gronkowski down in Tampa Bay. They've got a load of talent. I've actually joked that they are similar to a Tecmo Super Bowl team where there's a bunch of names that have been gathered that you may have wanted on your team 3 or 4 years ago, but hey, here they are. And usually in the NFL, that doesn't work. Usually you can't put a whole bunch of just names on a team and expect them to go out and win that season. I think the last time we saw something similar to this was the Philadelphia Eagles a few years back, where someone called them the Dream Team before the season began, and that season imploded. So all this again comes down to the arm of a 43-year-old quarterback in the Tampa Bay Heat and Tom Brady. We'll see how they go, but I'm just not very high on them to do as much as everyone else is saying. I do have them in the wild card. And then finally, the final wild card, it's going to be the San Francisco 49ers. You didn't think I forgot about the 49ers, did you? They got to the Super Bowl with a punishing run game, punishing defense. Those things tend to carry over year to year. However, another thing that tends to carry over year to year is the Super Bowl hangover. People didn't believe it last year when I said the Rams wouldn't make the playoffs because of it, or the Falcons the year before, and it has stood up. The 49ers will squeak into the playoffs in the NFC just because the NFC is so loaded. The 49ers are one of the more talented teams on that side. I just like them better than any other teams I could pick to go into the wild card. They still have enough to get in with a new 7th playoff seed being added. So those are your squads there in the AFC. Chiefs, Patriots, Steelers, Colts, Ravens, Texans, Browns will make the AFC. And in the NFC, Seattle, Dallas, Atlanta, Packers, New Orleans, Tampa, 49ers will make it on the NFC side. The 1 seeds, I've got the Chiefs with the 1 seed in the AFC. I have the Dallas Cowboys with the 1 seed in the NFC. The NFC Championship game would be the Dallas Cowboys versus the New Orleans Saints. Drew Brees versus Dak Prescott. And in the AFC Championship game, I've got those Kansas City Chiefs taking on the New England Patriots. So you got Pat Mahomes versus Cam Newton on one side, Dak Prescott versus Drew Brees on the other. In the Super Bowl, I do have the Dallas Cowboys taking on the Kansas City Chiefs, and the Kansas City Chiefs will repeat as Super Bowl champions. Stay tuned, much more to come here on The Rundown. Voice of the Deacon Stan Cotton will join us here in just a bit to talk about Wake Forest hosting #1 Clemson in Winston-Salem with no fans, and even College Game Day from ESPN in the house. We'll talk about that, how the Wake Forest Demon Deacons have handled coronavirus, how much did Sage Surratt opting out affect the Wake Forest team, and much more. You are locked in to The Rundown. We'll be right back.